We begin with Ngā Pari Nui and a large meeting in support of him this morning. At that meeting, members of Mr Nui's iwi and local community called on the head of corrections, Ray Smith, to stand down and the Minister, Judith Collins, to apologise. Ngā Pari Nui was volunteering as a kaiwhakamana. According to the corrections website, they're kaumātua given access to prisons to enable the wellness and well-being of their people inside. But he's also a life member of Black Power. And after the Minister, Judith Collins, was alerted to this, he was stood down. Judith Collins is standing by, waiting to talk to us live. But in South Taranaki and Whanganui, they're furious. They say Mr Nui does valuable work with at-risk and criminal youngsters and that he's able to do this because they trust him. And this morning they held a meeting to express their support for him. Hastily convened, it was attended by over 100 people, including many senior kaumātua. And when we heard it was happening, we contacted Ngāti Ruanui by Skype video and got hold of their spokesperson, Debbie Ngare-Wapaka, who told us what they were discussing in the room behind her.
They've expressed frustration and disappointment. They have talked about the necessity to have control of our own destiny and our own solutions. So there's been quite a lot expressed about the frustrations of someone who has this unique ability to have feet in both camps, and that's now being caused a disadvantage or a conflict. And we also talked about the disappointment that Ray Smith, who signed this off, hasn't done his due diligence or whatever he's saying. And there was unanimous support to ask for him to stand down and for him to be suspended pending a review. If our taonga has to be suspended, so should Ray Smith, who signed it off.
So Ray Smith to stand down as head of corrections, because this has been completely contradictory. Ngā Pari has been doing this work for 5 years now with the full knowledge of corrections.
Yep, he's actually been doing it, John, for probably a lot of his older adult life, and he has officially taken the role as kaiwhakamana with Department of Corrections. But he's had involvement with our whānau for a very long time, outside of the period that he's had this formal role.
Suddenly Judith Collins gets involved after sensible sentencing get involved and everything changes. Is that your sense of it there in Hawera?
That's pretty much exactly how everyone sees it, that a bunch of do-gooders and sensible sentencing have used their lobbying position to now affect and tell iwi what to do and tell the treaty partner what to do. And that's where the level of engagement's happening with the Crown and sensible sentencing. And the Minister has been straight out arrogant and refused to meet with the treaty partner and iwi, and certainly the sentiments that we're getting from our iwi chairs across the country are supporting that cause. We see it all the same way.
And who was there from corrections today? Sorry, Debbie. Who came from corrections? Did Jeremy Lightfoot come on behalf of corrections?
Yes, yeah. The National Commissioner, Jeremy Lightfoot, and two of his colleagues who head to Tautoko in their official capacity as well.
Is that him we're seeing there now? Sorry, the camera's just swung round. Is that Jeremy Lightfoot we're seeing there in the suit with the glasses?
Yes, it is.
Debbie, you talk about the work Ngā Pari's done. How much work does he do? And we are talking about a man who has the experience of being a troubled youth, working with troubled youth. So how much of his life has he dedicated to this? How much of his time has he given to this?
I would go so far to say all of his life. All of his life has been, and Uncle Sandy, Uncle Mac, Uncle Tony, all these kaumātua, these are whānau that live on the ground, and they've come here because they recognise the years and years of dedication he's done for our whānau that aren't getting support from the government. People are not going into their homes and supporting them. And he's actually tried to make a real impact based on his experience firsthand.
And so, Debbie, forgive me.
So he's dedicated most of his life, certainly as an adult, towards assisting whānau.
And all those people behind you, and the room is emptying out now because the meeting is over, but the room was full. All of
Yes.
those people are
Yep.
there solely to support Ngā Pari. There wasn't anything else going on. This meeting was only about him.
The meeting was definitely only about Ngā Pari, only about the kauakamana, and you'll see here we have our kohanga, because Ngā Pari is also part of the kohanga movement. He's part of Kura Kaupapa. Takite, darlings. He's part of our marae trustees. He's part of iwi, hapu, and they've not focused on the overall picture of the man and the contribution that he makes here on the ground. Takite, darling. Thank you.
Debbie Ngārewa Paka talking to us as that meeting was coming to an end. Listening to that was Corrections Minister Judith Collins, who joins us on the phone now live. Welcome back to Checkpoint, Minister. Nice to have you with us.
Oh, thank you, John. Always nice to be here.
You've got this wrong, haven't you? Because you've used a one-size-fits-all template, and you may have stumbled upon a Black Power member for life who was doing genuinely good and important work.
No, not at all, John. In 2014, the Prime Minister announced this government's gang action plan for the very reason that gangs are a major problem in our prisons and they're a major problem in our communities. And in fact, we need to have principle applied to this, which is why Corrections is undertaking a review. When we have a situation where our prison population, the gang part of it, according to Corrections, has increased from 15% 8 years ago to now close to 30% of our prison population, we have a major problem with recruiting to gangs in our prisons.
Have you any evidence, any anecdotal evidence, any reports, anything at all that say that Ngā Pari Nui was recruiting?
What I'm telling you, John, is that people are recruiting in
Sorry,
our prisons.
Ngā Pari Nui specifically,
Well,
because this is specific to him, this case.
No, it's not at all specific to
It's
him.
very specific to him
No,
because
it's not.
he's the person we're talking about. He is the person who was doing what everyone, including an MP in your own caucus, Chester Burrows, a former policeman in this community, says is good and important work.
No, it's not specific to Mr. Nui, not at all, which is why there is a review of all of the Corrections volunteers. It is really important that Corrections make sure that it is not encouraging, enabling, or in any other way saying that a gang lifestyle or gang membership, a patch on your back, is actually a good thing to aim for.
Look,
As for Mr. Nui and anyone else volunteering in our prisons, there's a very simple solution. Choose the gang or choose the people.
He says, and I've spoken to him today, he says that by being part of the gang, he gets access to the young. Now, look, I agree that there is an issue with gangs. Your statement about the number of gang members in prison is a statement of fact. But what that says, because the rate keeps going up, is that nothing that is being done is working. And here is a man who, on the face of it, according to the Māori Party, according to local MPs, according to Kaumatua, according to everyone who knows him, who we have spoken to, is making a difference.
John, if it was making a difference, we wouldn't, and the work of others involved in this area, then we would not have a doubling of the percentage of prisoners who happen to be
he's one man. That would suggest on the face of it that everything else you're doing is failing, wouldn't it?
No, what it means is that we need to look, Corrections is looking at all of the volunteers working in their prisons. You know, we've got 46% of youth under 19 years in our prisons have gang affiliations. You know, this is a very serious issue, and I think it is really important to keep a principled view of this, and the principle has to be that actually people need to understand that it is not okay to be a member of a gang. I have 50 gangs represented in my prison population that I'm responsible for, 50 of them. What if we had someone who was an important person in a particular community who happened to be a headhunters gang member? What about that? What about other gangs?
Hold on a sec.
No, gangs should not be recognised and be part of how we run prisons, but unfortunately we have to because of the sheer volume.
Don't you cut your garment according to your cloth. What do we know about this man? When did he last commit a criminal offence? Do you know that?
Well, actually, John, I know quite a lot, but I'm not going to go down these details because
so was
this
it?
matter is now subject to a review.
Is it? No, wait a
not
sec.
fair
Has
to
he
do so.
committed a criminal offence this century?
Actually, John, I'm not going to go down a matter that's subject to review. We now have a gang intelligence centre.
No, absolutely. All of that is true, but the issue isn't going away.
John,
and here is man. Look, I'll tell you what. I spoke to Tariana Turia this afternoon, who knows this man well. She is a local MP, and she is highly respected. Former colleague of yours in coalition government, former whānau ora minister. Now, she just sums him up in 1 minute. Have a listen to what she says about him. It takes 1 minute.
He is a wonderful man. He exemplifies what I would call whānau ora in practice. 3 generations of their family live together. He goes house to house in Hāwera, supporting those who most organisations would have trouble accessing. He is just the greatest guy. Absolutely he is.
And yet he is a Black Power member for life, and people are going to look at that and say he is nothing but bad news.
Well, that's sad because I think it's probably at least 25, 30 years since he ever got into any trouble. He is alcohol-free, he is drug-free, he is violence-free. He doesn't do any of that stuff. He is a very good man. And I'm really proud of Ngā Tari. I have seen him in action when we've had serious issues go down here in Whanganui, and he always supports everybody who is wanting to do right.
Isn't he, Minister, an illuminating example of how you get back on the rails after you've gone off them?
No, what we're talking about here, John, is that we have a very serious problem with gangs in our prisons. And actually, we need to show some leadership around what people want to do about that. And one of the things I'm saying to you and to the public is that while I'm Minister of Corrections, I will not stand by and say it's okay for someone to choose to be a gang member, a senior gang member, patched member, and to also at the same time have access to young, vulnerable people in our prisons.
Do you have any evidence he was abusing that access whatsoever? Because
John,
I think you are implicitly suggesting that.
John, I am saying very clearly this is subject to a review, which it is being undertaken.
Are there any circumstances in which someone like this can do good? No, Minister, this is a complex issue, and you are right. Gangs are a source of real trouble in this country, but we seem not on the face of it to be addressing it, and your own facts state that explicitly. How do we address it, and are there any circumstances in which somebody who has lived the life is able to be useful in saying to young people, hey, stop drinking, stop taking drugs, stop doing crime, because that is what Ngā Parinui has been doing for the past 15 or 20 years.
That's why the Prime Minister announced the Gang Action Plan in 2014. John, if I look at what we're doing in terms of rehabilitation in our prisons, I can tell you the worst performing of all of the rehabilitation is the Tikanga Māori program, where we have a 2.6% increase in reconviction rates of people who go through that program. Every other program, we get a decrease in people being reconvicted. So actually, this particular mentoring program that was set up 5 years ago, that has never even been evaluated as to whether or not it's making a positive difference. So I can't deal in the anecdotal of someone being a lovely human being, because I no doubt there are many people who are lovely human beings, some of whom may be connected to gangs. But I can tell you that the Tikanga Māori program is the worst performing, worse than worst performing, because people are actually getting more reconvictions after completing it. So I think we need to take these, rose-tinted glasses off and say what really is working. Well, it's rehabilitation programs based on drug and alcohol. It's rehabilitation based on drug treatment, on trades training, employment, those sorts of things, the Outer Gate program.
Minister.
But what doesn't work is actually thinking that you just have to have someone go and talk to someone and it's all going to stop. It doesn't. And I think we need to take a principled view, and my view is that this needs to be reviewed.